I clicked it. We're live now.
We are live now. Hey,
Yay.
y'all. Yay.
Hi.
It's the first night of Red Birth Green After Dark. I'm super excited. I'm Erica Goodhouse, conjurer of Birth Reclamation for Rooted and director of Red Birth Green, which I've said a million times. But if you're new and you don't know us, I want to make sure that changes after tonight. So we're just really excited to spend a little bit of time with you. So I'm going to pass it over to my lovely right-hand woman.
My name is Aaliyah Abdul Mutakalim. I am the coordinator of community outreach and care at Red Birth Green. We're super excited that you're joining us tonight. And this is the start of something absolutely wonderful.
It is. I was going to say, like, start something epic. Like, this is like a really new territory for us. And it's like a podcast, but you could just see our faces, right? I feel a little bit like
record podcast live.
Yeah, like I mean, talking. I think about some of like the YouTube personalities that my kids like who have podcasts, and they sit in their little cute studio situations and
with their little microphones and their headphones. Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we'll get like some sponsors or something. They'll fund some cute stuff for our space.
Yes, but for now, it's us in StreamYard kicking it on Thursday nights at 8:30. So, like I said, this is our first one, but you will be able to find us here live on the Rooted Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. Slight name drop there. You can search that up. But we will be here gathering every Thursday night at 8:30 for these After Dark sessions. And our little tagline is, yes, we talk about it. So this is supposed to be a really open and transparent and brave space to show up. We love questions. We love interaction. But also we recognize that living in a pandemic is hard. And that is especially hard for humans that are parenting. And so we know that you might not be able to join us live, and that's okay too. These will always be archived on YouTube and on our Facebook page or on Rooted's Facebook page so that you can come back. Maybe it's a Friday morning ritual that you create for yourself, or maybe you set aside time on the weekend when you know you can really focus on the topics at hand. We just really hope that you commit to spending some time with us each week and pouring into yourself, because we can't pour from empty cups, right? So our goal is to help you feel supported and a little bit uplifted. And like maybe, just maybe, you can get through another 7 days of our current living situation.
Possibly. Who knows?
Yes. Fingers crossed. So tonight I am doing a shameless plug for upcoming merch, Decolonize Everything. That'll be available through Rooted. But also because Decolonize Everything is kind of our topic and our segue for tonight. Hey, Alicia. So the theme for Black History Month for Rooted as a whole is Afrofuturism, which is a term that some people may not be familiar with. But we started a conversation that was posted this past Sunday, and it really was about decolonize everything. And what does that mean? So tonight, Aaliyah and I are going to dig in, and we're going to talk a bit more about what does it mean when we talk about decolonized parenting? Because that's not something that's mainstream or talked about. And so again, on After Dark, we talk about it. So let's go.
Let's
go. Yeah. When you hear the term decolonized parenting, like what comes up for you?
To me, it means not so much getting rid of something. Instead, it means adding to. So for me, that means, learning about my ancestors and tapping into where I come from. I just got a free trial to ancestry.com. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm really trying to tap into that. And so I really want to find out my roots, where I come from. So when I research and look at different, rituals and practices and cultures, that I know that I feel somewhat connected to it, because, as people of the African diaspora, most of the time, most of us don't know where we come from. We don't know where our traditions are. We don't know what our rituals are, especially in the birthing world, because everything's so sterile and quite, and just you go to the hospital, you have your baby, they kick you out the next day, and that's it. And so that's decolonization to me. Is just really like tapping into where you're from and really just taking that time to learn about your people. And like obviously, people have been around for more than a millennium, and obviously we're all here, so they must have gotten through birth somehow, some way. And so that means that, if they could do it, I can mix modern Western medicine and whatever Eastern African desires, that I can mix it all together and try to create a better, like more harmonious village for my kids.
Oh, I love that you just brought in the word village. We're going to talk about that in a second because I think that that is definitely an aspect of this as well. Um, one thing that came up as part of the larger group conversation, because we explored it not just in terms of parenting, but we were just like looking at all of these different systems, mental health, decolonization for Indigenous people. Like we really went in. So if you haven't listened to that conversation, you should definitely like hop down a little bit on the Rooted Facebook page and find it so that you can spend some time there as well. But I think the thing that really encompassed all of it was that if you're going to decolonize everything, you need to question everything. And, I think it's really easy to say that, but we also live in a culture where if you're questioning everything, especially as a Black or brown person, that can come with consequences. We're not encouraged to ask questions. And so I think that's where I really want to spend a bit of time tonight is what it looks like to question everything when you're a parent. And yeah, I mean, some of that starts with your village, right? The people you surround yourself with, for sure. And doing that with intention. But I know, like for me as a mixed race person, in some ways, I don't know how to not question everything because there's not spaces that are designed for mixed race people, right? So like I have to question, like, do I belong here? Do I not? Based on the surroundings or based on the community of folks, that can be really tricky. It's especially tricky like now that I'm raising second gen mixed race kids because they're super ambiguous. And so like they have to also learn to ask their own questions. But I guess like, how can we feel encouraged to make it okay, or let's say normalize asking questions about everything? Like what drops in for you?
Just more like old time traditions, because in my most of my family's from the South, so they did things a little bit different than we do in the North. So a lot of like the old timey knockout bottles, giving your kids, a Benadryl or something to get them to sleep. Like, yeah, those worked, but that doesn't mean it was necessarily safe. So it doesn't just mean, questioning the past. It also means questioning what's going on, right here, right now. And I feel like there is like the waterfall of intervention when it comes to, birthing and parenting, because everyone has their own opinion and everybody wants to give you their opinion.
That part.
And so it's really hard to decipher, what do I actually want to use, what actually makes sense, because a lot of this stuff is not evidence-based. And that's fine. You can have your old little wives' tales and stuff like that, but it could also be really dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. I think what's coming up for me listening to you is like as simple as starting with why, right?
Yeah, like why?
Yes.
Why do you do that? Like why do you need your child to sleep so bad? Like I get why, because I'm tired.
Right.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, if your baby's crying, chances are that they need something. So it's just, I feel like a lot of the parenting techniques, especially for like white Western culture, a way of parenting is about subduing your child and just making them feel not heard, instead of actually treating your child as a tiny human who is autonomous to you.
That's a
I
big
feel
one.
like there's a huge thing of ownership in parenthood, it's like, I made you, you are mine, instead of just, you know, you are a human that I created, but you are your own person. So I am trying to do more conscious parenting and really trying to acknowledge that, like, I can't get my kids to do, my boys are only 8 months old, but like, I can't get them to do what I want no matter how hard I try sometimes. And I know that is going to be the way it is for our entire lives. So I better just get used to it right here, right now.
That's, that's a really interesting aspect to bring in, is like the roles of like submission, right, in the parenting relationship. And I think that what you brought up is super common, especially when we think about like beliefs that are passed on to us. I think previous generations really leaned into the idea that children were there to submit to elders, right? And so I know I was raised that way. And I know that, people of that, like my parents' generation, right? Like that still sits and resonates for them. And so if you as a parent are asking why, and questioning things, that's going to pass on to your kids who are going to question and ask why. And that can be seen as, being disobedient. That's a big word.
Rude,
Rude,
ungrateful.
mouthy, ungrateful, all those things. So then what do we do in the face of that, right? We're trying to shift narratives, which is super important. We're trying to do that work of decolonizing everything, also super important. But we don't want to come off as jerks. Did your cat just attack?
Yeah, well, she was trying to knead on me and her nails are super sharp. That was my first baby. She bad.
We need to
She don't do
decolonize
what I
her and her
want.
nails. But what is that, like how do we meld the two? How do we create, a new way of being while still honoring, I don't want to say respecting, but still honoring those ways of being that are so deeply ingrained before us?
I think it's really about instilling self-confidence. It's really about like confidence in your ability as a parent.
Mm.
Because I believe that there are just so many opinions, and like, how many times have you just sat there and you've been like, am I even a good parent? Do my kids even like me? Are they even alive? What's
Right,
going
questioning yourself,
on?
right? Like that's part of questioning
Yeah.
everything too. Absolutely.
So it's always about, reevaluating. It's very, very like basic school, hypothesis testing results. Okay, if this didn't work, I need to try something else. Especially like, one thing that I've gotten personally a lot of pushback on is like, my kids are not allowed to play contact sports. Like, no football, no soccer, no hockey. And I like, this girl actually started arguing with me about it. And she's like, what if your kids fall off their bike and get a concussion? And it's like, well, that's fine. One concussion is fine, out of God knows how many years, instead of like 3 concussions per week. So, it's this whole trying to fit your kids into a box, especially since I have Black boys.
Mm.
People are going to try to shove them into a box, very, very quickly. One of my boys they were in NICU, and I think my baby was a week old. And here's one of the nurses making a joke about, oh, I got a little girl down the hall that I think he'd like. It's like, my child has a CPAP on. Like, I do not care. My baby does not care. So it's really just about, like, why would you even say that? Like, it's just about not trying to is learn. It's more about trying to learn instead of just trying to force things, like a square in a round peg type deal.
Sure. Alicia dropped in the comments that the best questions are from the kiddos. They have no walls, boundaries, or limits, and their questions can be expanded upon by parents. We could all learn to allow those questions to flow freely. So
Yes.
I think that's absolutely true. If we allow our kids to lead, again, my kids are older. So Leah's got 8-month-old twins, which is fantastic. I did that phase too. But now my youngest is 9, and my kids range then up in age to 15. So we're in a different phase right now. And going through an election cycle with kids at those ages was very, I don't want to say eye-opening because we stay pretty open and woke most of the time. I don't know how we can't, like working, at Rooted and doing the work that we do with Red Birth Green, but seeing politics through their eyes was honestly, it was a really cool experience. And it got me so excited for this next generation of young people because like Alicia said, like they have no boundaries, like they don't have limits, they don't have like those, like society imposed expectations quite yet. And so they are quick to be like, but why?
Yeah.
Even toddlers, you tell them no, why?
Why?
Why can't I do that? And so I think, how can we lean in? How can we support that? Because I think it gets, this is like another conversation in a few weeks. Like we could talk about decolonization in school.
Ooh,
yeah, that's a whole thing.
Something to say about we'll have to circle back on that one.
Yeah, I think we might have to extend this a little bit into March because I have the next couple of weeks planned out too. But I think we do need to talk about school and what that looks like. I think it's super relevant too because of all the pandemic learning that's happening. But like my opinion is that kids go to school and it kind of gets squashed out of them.
Yeah.
Like they forget because again, they're seen as disruptive. They're just seen in a negative light if they're the kid who questions things, right? And so in the school system, they just need to fall in line and not cause those disruptions and, the path of least resistance, if you will. Yeah. And so like, how can we cultivate environments that village thing, I want to wrap back around to that. How can we cultivate environments for them that allows them to stay in that space of not knowing walls and boundaries and limits and really leaning into just the vulnerability, I guess, that comes with being a young person?
I think what's really important in that is I feel like we really have to break down the blind loyalty and the blind respect that older people think that they are owed and they are deserved just because they've been on this earth longer. Like, I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe in common courtesy. Yes. If you talk to me nicely, I'll talk to you nicely. But this end all be all, I am the alpha, omega, and the God kind of learning and the way that people have been raised in the past just doesn't work. And then, you do get those kids who are questioning things. And like, why would you want to beat down your child's creativity and their spark and their lust for life? Especially for kids, it's like they don't know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like if we can find ways to keep them excited, right, about their environment and keep them curious, like curiosity is good. Curiosity is how like things get changed in the world and how new discoveries are made. And like that starts with us. If we're so quick to shush them up and send them off, like it's a missed opportunity, I think. So like, again, like how can we cultivate spaces? How can we dream? I think the thing I hope for these conversations is that they're dream spaces. Like, how can we dream a little bit about what we can come up with?
Dream space.
Yeah, it's a dream space. Like, how can we come up with something? Like, what's missing, right? Because my job so much right now is to identify gaps and then design things to bridge them, right? And so I think like that's what keeps me circling back to a dream space is where are the gaps? What are we missing? How can we support parents better? How can we support young people better? But just most importantly, like how can we show up in ways that cultivate those spaces that encourage curiosity and encourage questioning to support that decolonized mindset as a parent?
I think that we really need to take learning as like a family activity instead of you sit down in front of your computer and you do your third grade work. You
Mm,
know, like if your kid has a question and you don't know, just don't say, I don't know, go look it up. You know, like maybe you'd be like, okay, later we can take the time and we can go through it together. There's a show called Storybots and it's on Netflix. And they'll take a question from a kid and then the storybots will figure out the answer and then they will go and explain to them the entire process of something um like what happens when you fart. I'm pretty sure that was a question. And they'll go and it's like, how do your eyes see? And stuff like that. So maybe just because a parent doesn't necessarily can get to it right away doesn't mean that it's completely forgotten, or maybe there can be some sort of database. I mean, YouTube's a really great resource, but you don't always know what's appropriate on YouTube, especially people be like
that
dropping
part.
really weird inappropriate videos, especially in the kids YouTube. So I think that that could be something we could people could ask us questions. It's like we'll find the answer, and it could be like a whole community of things. And maybe somebody is a science, somebody's parents a scientist, and they can explain it. Or how does hair dye work? Erica, you could answer that question.
Yes, I could. Yeah,
So like we can
that would
really
be
tap into
amazing.
the people around us instead of just, trying to look for Google or looking for in a book, because that's how you really pass on knowledge, is not really through, a textbook or a screen. It's through the people that you know.
Well, and again, that leans into some of those roots, right, of past knowledge that gets lost in translation. We're so focused on the things that happen between the hours of 7 and 3 or, 8, 4, whatever, during that traditional school day. And that school day anymore spills into the rest of life so very much that it doesn't allow as much time for that past knowledge. And I'm actually excited. I'm like, my wheels are turning like Mighty Networks. I'm like, how can we develop, kind of like almost like a learning library.
Yes,
Of
Mighty Networks is the website that we use our videos for, and a lot of our content is gonna actually all of our content is gonna be available on there.
yeah, so that's at therootedcollective.com. So you can check us out there too. Um, but again, I feel like there's missed opportunities here, and I love trying to uncover them. Jacqueline threw in the chat that she's so passionate about this type of education, and so are we. Like,
Yeah.
I really think that I feel a weight of responsibility in creating opportunities that allow for us to learn in different ways. But most importantly, that we get to learn together, multi
Yeah.
generational, right? Like,
Mhm.
because again, yes, we're the parents in the situation, but we do not know all the things.
Yeah,
And
it's like, and it's okay. It's okay to not know. It's
it
okay to say,
is.
I don't know. Let's find out together.
Yes, absolutely. And again, like that models behavior. I think modeling how to question and modeling how to dig in and research and find things. I mean, I can say right now that is something we've engaged in as a family for years at this point, and now I'm seeing the fruits of those labor, right? Of that
Yeah.
labor, because I have kids that are old enough that I can say, oh, you know what? That's a great question. Why don't you take some time and dig into that, and then let's circle back. And they're like, all right, because that's like we've cultivated that as a primary language within our family.
Mhm.
I want to teach other people to do the same thing, and also to feel confident about doing that. Like,
Yeah.
it's new, it's different, and I get that. New and different is uncomfortable, and that's all right. It's okay. Again, let's model sitting in discomfort and
Yeah. You can't
learning.
grow unless you're uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I feel like we need to put that on a t-shirt or a sticker or something. Like,
Growth is uncomfortable,
yes, it is
How do you know you need
uncomfortable.
new shoes? Because they start getting uncomfortable. How do you know that
Oh,
you need new pants? Because they start getting uncomfortable.
yes. That's such a good visual. Like, seriously, how do you know that you need new shoes? Because they get uncomfortable. Like, and I think we can do the same thing with experiences and just ways of being as parents. Like ultimately, decolonizing everything, decolonizing parenting is it's an unlearning and a relearning process, right?
Yeah.
It's going into that place of being uncomfortable and being willing to sit in the discomfort, and then say, you know what? I actually did not like those shoes at all. I want a new pair.
Yeah.
And so, our hope is that, through these chats on Thursday nights that we can help find that new pair of shoes.
At 8:30.
At 8:30.
We're
Yeah.
going shoe shopping.
We're going shoe shopping. Can we invite Macklemore? Let's go thrift shopping and find shoes. Yeah, I really hope that we can come together and we can just keep showing up and supporting individuals in finding the best fit for them. Because that's also another thing. It's not one size fits all, right? Like some things you can take and leave. And that's all right too. You don't have to literally throw everything out. Some things might work for you. Some things that are more structured or more traditional or more colonized may work best for you. As a parent, may work best for your kids. That's okay too.
Yeah.
I think that the decolonization part comes in being willing, again, sit in the discomfort, right?
Yeah.
Question everything, ask why. Teach your kids to question everything and ask why. That's perfectly good and okay.
I can already tell my kids about to get in trouble in school. They're going to be trying to teach them about Christopher Columbus. And they're like, my mom said that he was a murdering racist. And I'll be like, yes, sweetie, that's what they said. That's what I said. Yeah. I got the book right here. I got the receipts.
That's like the highest compliment to me. Like if your kid shows up in a situation and is the kid that's like, well, my mom said this. Yes, your mom did. That's right, sweetie. You tell them.
My mom said that he brought nothing but disease and death. Mom says, my baby right there. You tell him.
That's right. My hope, right, is that when your babies reach school age, that we will have done enough work that them showing up in that, or one, they wouldn't have to be like, well, my mom said, right? Because it's not even being taught in the same way. That would be ideal. But more importantly, that there are teachers who are also of this mindset, like infiltrated all through schools and in the public education setting, that are going to be,
all those people who are my age are getting up in the school system. Yes. They're becoming teachers. They're becoming principals. They're directing programs. They're planning curriculums. Like, I love to see it.
Yes, I'm so excited for like the next 5 to 7 years and how things are going to shift in these systems that we're so accustomed to, that we've been fighting tooth and nail to have change. And I feel it. We're on the cusp of something amazing. We just got to hold on a little bit longer. But yes, I just really, really believe that by the time those babies are 5 and headed off to kindergarten, that it's going to be a whole village of tribe makers that they're sitting in class with, and they're going to have a teacher that's super woken with it and is like, yes, let's lean in and have those tough conversations, 5-year-olds. Like, I really believe that we're closer to that than we ever have been. And so we're just going to keep showing up and talking about all the things.
Yes. Telling kids the truth. Telling kids, like, you don't got to get graphic with it, but I mean, kids are a lot smarter and they're much more adaptable than people. People are always just like, we gotta shelter the kids. And then they grow up and like, they don't know how to handle anything. Because, the people have been keeping secrets, their whole lives. And then they just expect, and it's just like, oh, you're 20 now and you don't know this. Why not?
Right. Because it's never been talked about. Right. Yeah. So again, it starts in us gathering together and having the difficult conversations and empowering people to like be the ones who show up in situations and question what's being offered, and having the courage to do that. That comes in little bits. That does not happen overnight, right? And so we're just going to do it a little bit at a time, but most importantly, we're going to do it together. And I'm excited about that. Like, I'm excited that it's, us together on Thursday nights. For now, hopefully it'll just keep growing into something more, and, also share it. Like, sometimes we might not have the words ourselves to feel like we can impact change. But if you hear something as we chat that resonates and you're like, ooh, I want my village, I want my circle, to have this same experience, like share this. That's why we're putting it on social media, honestly. We can only ever have so many of you together in one place at one time.
Yeah.
But this allows us to help you and support you in impacting change as well. So
Yeah, talk to your kids, ask them what they want to learn about. Tell us, let us know. Drop a comment, send an email, write on our Facebook wall, whatever. And we'll see what we can do about trying to get that information out there.
Yeah, that's a super good point. So, like we've said, like we will be here every Thursday night from now until question mark at 8:30 p.m. And this really more than anything is for you. It's for the community. So let us know what you would love to have a facilitated conversation about. What would be most helpful for you to have a safe space and a brave space to dig in a bit more. We would love your input, and we really welcome the opportunity to allow that to guide us as well. So,
and don't think it just has to be, about your kids or anything. If you have questions about birthing, postpartum, about your body, like we are going to talk about it. So don't be scared. Feel free to email us at redbirthgreen@rooted.org, and maybe we'll start reading some questions if we get some.
Ooh, I like the sounds of that. So awesome. This has been so fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Can't wait for next week. And we will see all of y'all next time. Bye.